Good day to you from Anagalactic on this Saturday, July 25th, 2026. Up on the screen, you'll see one of our two choices for venue today. I do try to produce daily, especially in these troublous times, but also because I'm on a discovery vector which radically changes science. I am just an individual. I have no real support. I don't have any credentials, but I am a student of astronomy, and that led me to quantum mechanics because I was studying the nature of light transmission through space, which is how we get all of our information about the universe, except for gravity. We can study gravity, so we could go down the science path today. There is an alternative, however, which I'll just flash onto the screen. That man that you see to the left is Joe Kent. Although I'm not really interested in politics, even I have heard of Joe Kent, who resigned from the Trump administration as director of the U.S. National Counter-Terrorism Center. So this is a genuine leader of our nation. To the right, you will see the now extremely famous Glenn Deason, who produces the best information on the two wars that are now escalating to global, called World War III. It actually will be World War I. So there's that, and it just began basically this year, although it has quite a history. These two wars have been escalating for decades. The war against Russia, which is being conducted by the United States and the Federation of Europe to destroy Russia, to wipe it off the map, to erase its civilization. That's one war, which is heating up so quickly that everyone is losing their mind, literally. So there's that war that is now proceeding to World War I, which will be the first world war, genuine world war. World War II was close because it had two theaters of operation, one obviously in Europe, and the other one in the Pacific Ocean, which is quite a theater of war, as I studied for most of my youth. Around puberty, that was what I loved to study, was World War II, because it's such a fun game for a child, which I was, and in many ways still am. And the child side of me is really not interested in these two wars. The second war is one that I really loathe and detest, but I'm vitally attracted to what America has been doing since World War II. Since, of course, World War II ended in 1945, which was about 81 years ago, am I counting right? This, of course, is my main interest, is geometry. That's why I have this station. But you see, actually, life goes on outside of your laboratory. And sometimes life is just really insistent. For instance, when you have to urinate, that's life calling you to wherever you go to urinate, because you're not getting out of that daddy-o. You have to do something that is no longer science, it's life. And then, of course, 1/3 of a diurnal cycle, you're asleep. Americans don't get enough sleep. They're overworked. What is science for? Well, it's to obtain rational solutions to logical questions. That's what rational logic is for, which is the basis of science, is rational logic, obviously. So we are talking about two slightly different manifestations of consciousness and intelligence. We're both as humans. And so you have Glenn Deason, a top-notch commentator, and I'm very grateful to be able to listen to his station daily, which I've been doing for 3 months now. Very informative, very well done. The man he is interviewing today, it was just 4 hours ago, is none other than the former director of the United States National Counter-Terrorism Center. Not just anybody gets to be in that position. The National Counter-Terrorism Center is very high up. And Joe Kent is now famous. And when I say famous, if I've heard of him, he's famous because I don't care much for politics. Well, you'd never know it. Over the past year, I've been steadily being drawn back in to my childhood fantasy world of global war, world war. I did try to study World War I. I read the book at the age of 13 called War Through the Ages, which is about 1,000 some pages long, because I just love warfare. Because it's a game. Well, this is a childish or childlike point of view of warfare. And I did read everything I could about hand-to-hand combat, getting hit by a torpedo, getting bombed, getting machine gunned. What's it like to die of sepsis? What's it like to be blown to smithereens? What's it like to watch your buddies just being mown down, screaming? You die of trench rot in some godforsaken foreign land. You're a good old American, you're from the farm, you're from the city. Suddenly you're of age, someone shoves a rifle in your hand, get the hell out there and fight the Japs, fight the Krauts. Man, was that interesting. And then there was James Bond. And James Bond, of course, is an arm of the military. They're murderers. James Bond is a cutthroat. Well, that's not really how we looked at it, and here I must include myself in whatever generation I am. Somewhere between, two named generations. We have generational names now because things are going so fast. And the generation, just one generation behind me, whatever that's called or however many years that is, I just guess like 25 years is a generation. But it could be more or less, because what the hell is a generation? Well, it's a demographic of a certain age bracket that is a voter, it's a consumer, it's someone who has values, identities, opinions, some kind of force that generates money, so it's important. And I'm part of some generation. Well, if you want to get really granular down to the quantum of generationalism, it would probably be a year, and my generation is the year 1954. So whoever was born in the fall of 1954 is my generation. And I have no idea how many of us there are, but there's enough of us to count. I mean, in both senses of count. So I'm torn between telling you what's going on in the two world wars that are now escalating toward full-scale global conflict, going to nuclear, undoubtedly then to thermonuclear, and of course now you're talking about some spooky, nasty, ugly, really impolite, just not really entertaining at all, unless you're 13 years old and you think it's a game. Well, you never really outgrow your previous stages as a human. They're all there in layers beneath your skin. So yeah, I'm still a kid. I'm still fascinated with war, even though I know what it means. It's hell. And actually, you could say, I suppose I could say if I dared, no one knows it better than I, except for one major difference between me and someone who does know what it is if you're on the ground being shot at, or your neighbors just all were massacred, or you saw your child die, or you're dying of enforced starvation, or in the old days in World War II, rape. Rape was the name of the game in World War II. They all raped. And it's massive. It's just the worst. It couldn't be worse. Forms of torture that are just unthinkable to a rational human mind. You just can't accept what's happening. It can't be happening. Well, what they say in my country, the United States or California, actually your country could just be your city or just your farm or just your tribe. But, in the way things have developed on this planet, I am considered to be part of a nation. And when you're 13 years old, you don't have much choice. You're an American. They tell you that. The other Americans tell you what you are. You're an American. So we love James Bond. And I studied, really, I was in my 30s when I finally got around to studying who the hell was James Bond. Is he based on a real character? Yeah, he is. And Ian Fleming said who he's based on, and I checked. Now, whole documentaries have been produced, even a TV show, which you younger folks may know what TV is. Well, I was raised on TV, and there was a documentary, I believe it was in the 1980s, I believe so, called The Sidney Riley Ace of Spies. And I believe it was a 10-part series. It was excellent. It was all pure lies, but what do you expect at espionage? The whole point behind espionage and spying is you don't release any information on what you're doing. That's why you're spies. Well, Joe Kent is a spy. He's actually a counter-spy. And you could say he's not a real spy in the same way that a man in the war room is not really a soldier. They're both involved in war, though. And spying involves terrorism. You slit the throats of people who are selected for execution. You rob them any way you can. You're thieves, you're murderers, and that's your job. Well, it was also the job of Bill Cosby and that other guy, Robert Culp. Robert Culp played a U.S. CIA agent. It was a very well done show. I used to stay up. It came on at like 11 p.m. because it's not really for kids. Oh, sure it's not. No, it's exactly what we wanted. It's exactly what I wanted to see. We're spies. Because that's even more fun. Well, you see James Bond. Oh, he's fun. Oh, he's hilarious. He's great. Shaken, not stirred? I did not actually get that's a joke. Shaken, not stirred, I said to my sister when I was in my 60s, just last decade, in one of our very long phone conversations that I just really enjoy with her, I just said, you know, I never really liked that phrase, shaken, not stirred, because that doesn't make any sense. And she knows me, so there was a pause, and I don't know if she was giggling, but we ended up laughing because she told me, Scott, that's a joke. And I thought about it and I squinted, you know. Oh, yeah, I guess it is. And so in many ways I'm still a child is what I'm saying. Which is why I'm sorely tempted to go to what I really love, which is the family of lines and curves. Why? Does that look exciting? Well, I try to make it exciting because it's the most exciting thing you've ever seen, whether you know it or not. But you see, now I'm just a panderer. I'm trying to get you into my world. What I want to share today is neither this nor this. And the only reason I presented both of these images to you, one of just dry, stale geometry, just planar geometry, ho, 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 hum, and this, which is politics, bleh, bleh. Well, which one do you want? Ho, hum, or bleh? Neither. I wouldn't, although I do. You see, we're divided beings in this crazy world. We really have to carry on life, while, as the song says, life goes on within you and without you and all around you. You know, it's a beautiful world. I see all kinds of faces. You hear Satchmo singing in the background. The birdies are singing, you know. You have a life. Well, so does the world. And you have to exist in the world. So you get these two faces of men that I respect them both extremely highly. And I like what they say because it's informative. But why do I actually need to know this when what I'm supposed to be doing, now it goes to, are you doing what you said? Well, that would be this. But when you compare that with this, I believe it's a difficult choice. So let me throw you a pitch that's just a little bit different. This is a LibreOffice document in which I am producing the prototype for my paper, which should be released by this Christmas, documenting all of that geometry. And Glenn Deason, by far the most excellent political, economic, and military commentator on YouTube right now, who will give you everything you need to know about the two wars that are going to Armageddon now. Now, in my life, that as it unfolds before me every day, each morning I awake afresh anew. That happened this morning. Israel is on the clock now. There can be one outcome only. It's slow. It's been slow. It's going so slowly. The Palestinians are still somewhat and somehow alive. There's a problem in Lebanon. It's going far too slowly. Even the assassination did not work. Now slow strangulation is all there is. It's been decades. It's still years to come. That's not good enough. Escalate now. That's everybody. That's the money. That's the law. Attack. Full scale. Now. It won't go that way. It just doesn't. Yes, it is escalating. It always has. It always will. It just won't go quickly. However, time is shortening. Time shortens everything. So a crisis is at the gate. Unhappily, it will stall there. It always has. It always stalls. The crisis is a Xeno-hour crisis, meaning it keeps getting closer while the time frame contracts. But it is simply taking forever. Thus, Satan's strategy becomes clear. Slow strangulation, like a boa constrictor. The war against Russia is stalled. The war against Iran is stalled. Crisis is stalled. It stays stalled. Meantime, economics screams at us. Higher prices, less luxury. That's coming. Slowly. So slowly. It is happening, but not fast enough. Not fast enough. Satan enjoys this. Freedoms keep disappearing. Domestic strangulation is going perfectly. International unity is coming along swimmingly. The perverts are having orgasms. That's what makes reality. Perverts having orgasms. That is Satanism. It's going brutally well. That's because Satan's winning. All is well. All is okay for now. Strangulating perversions dominate your existence. You will endure submission until you're insane. It's going well for Satan. You're enlisted now. Good luck. And that's what I wrote just really minutes ago, just because I do have feelings. I don't like genocide. I don't like Islam people being murdered. I don't like children screaming for their mothers who are dead next to them. I don't like screaming mothers with their baby right next to them dead. I don't like war. But that's what's happening. And there's nothing that can end it. How does that affect you? Does it affect you? Not for now, it doesn't. But the time is shortening. The scale of the interminable wait for the crisis is shortening. There are several metaphors, such as the fuse is pretty close. You know how it goes. But it's always tomorrow. It's always next year. There's an energy crisis. There's a global warming crisis. There are military crises that are so irrational and so extremely far out of control now, that presented in a certain way the facts of life right now, globally, should render you screaming insane, out of your mind, psychotic, suicidal, homicidal, brutally torn from your snug harbor center. It hasn't arrived yet, but it's getting extraordinarily close to happening, and nothing can stop it. What's it? Well, Russia needs to be eliminated from the globe. Russia is so hated, so permanently, demonically hated, that nothing can stop the war against Russia now from escalating to nuclear conflict. England has gone, for a nation that's been out of its mind for 200 years at least, it is now screeching for a psychotic conclusion to Europe. And England still has a voice. The entire continent of Europe is Nazified against the Russians, not the Jews this time. And that's not going to end until Russia is wiped off the map. That's happening. It just began this year. Well, began, you see, it's always beginning. And now Iran has been so amazingly besieged that even this year, the Ayatollah Khomeini, which is a name of their leader, was murdered by Israeli assassins. And the country has responded. And you've heard the phrase, they've closed the Straits of Hormuz. And Trump is a goner. And the United States is backed into a global corner that it can't get out of. And Israel is leading the way. And what exactly again is Israel? I can't tell you. You just simply can't know that. You would not hear it. If I forced you to hear it, you would not understand it. If I forced you to understand it, you would come at me with genocidal intent to murder me. If I told you exactly what's happening, you would hate me with all of your heart, mind, soul, and being. You would want me silenced. And so I can't tell you what Israel is, although I have in some recent videos. And I'm dangerously close to stepping over a line which simply is indeterminate from my point of view. The truth is dangerous. It is said that the truth will set you free. That's just a little bit ambiguous. It's from the Bible, but I am no longer sola scriptura, because every piece of information in or out of the Bible has context. The truth will set you free, huh? Really? Is that right? It depends which truth you're talking about. Because there is a truth, which I just showed you, the face of Joe Kent, who resigned from the Trump administration because he no longer can support this unbelievable assault on the oldest nation on earth. On the other side of the world from New York. It's 1/3 of the way around the globe in the northern hemisphere. Iran is at the center of Asia. The United States has landed in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Iraq again. It has bases all around Iran. And now the United States has attacked Iran in a step sequence of assaults that goes all the way back to the 1950s when they murdered the leader of Iran again. And again, it was the Israeli Mossad and the United States CIA that engineered the murder of Dr. Mossadegh, the president of a free Iran, was murdered. And you think that the Iranians have just forgotten that? Well, they can't forget now, because the Ayatollah Khomeini, which actually refers to more than one person, was murdered by CIA Mossad agents. Again! And now they can't just... They're being attacked. It's the Israelis. But it's more complicated than that because of the petroleum. I wrote a thesis paper in my last year of junior high school at the age of 13, and I completed it by the age of 14, that was a prognosis of where the United States was going following World War II, because I had made myself an expert on America following World War II. And then, as I entered high school, I was hit in the face. This is 1968. I was hit in the face with two massive blows to myself. One of them is I found out about the United Nations and the role of Israel in the United Nations. I learned that in my freshman year in high school. But at the same time, I was hit in the face with the Vietnam War. From all angles, the Vietnam War was raging in 1968, and it had been escalating for a few years, ever since President John F. Kennedy was shot in the head in Dallas while he was campaigning. John F. Kennedy was murdered by at least two interested parties, as far as anybody will ever know. But he was murdered, and the Vietnam War just magically escalated until it was out of control. And that was my introduction to post-war America. And I began, but I only began, to wake up to what actually is happening. But it's taken decades because it's such a slow process. And I've lived through this for 50 years and more. I have watched the unfolding of the global, political, economic, military, and domestic situation, which is all about Israel. It's Israel appeared by magic 3 years after the end of World War II. The UN, whatever they call that document, number 262, if memory serves. Oh, there's some more noise in our lovely Sabbath town. Israel is back on the map, and it has been since 1948. But it was already coming back long before that, decades before 1948. The Zionist movement in Eastern Europe was sending everybody it could to steal the land from the native inhabitants who had been there for about 2,000 years. More if you exclude Israel itself, which was destroyed about 70 years after the birth of Yeshua HaMashiach, which is a name I'm sure you can translate to Jesus Christ. So Israel is back after 2,000 years, and it runs everything in the white world is run from Jerusalem now. And Joe Kent does not deny that. None of the guests that Glenn Deason gets on his excellent broadcast, he has nothing but top-notch experts who are even-handed, and they hate Israel. And they say so. And they say so in terms which 50 years ago would have had an FBI tail on them, and their lives would have been destroyed for saying the things that Joe Kent dares to say now. And all of them do. They're absolutely, and I can't say it because it's not something you're allowed to say on open media, even to this day. But you know what I was about to say. I find myself in an interesting position as a military analyst, as a historian, and as an American, and as someone who values truth. I find myself in an extraordinary strait, pardon the pun on the Straits of Hormuz, because I know what's going on. But part of the reason I know what no one else is allowed to say, they couldn't say it, they don't know it. What gives me that extraordinary intelligence in the espionage sense of intelligence? How come I claim to know so much about what's going on that nobody is talking about? The real reason. I just gave you an example from my writings on what I could talk about, but now I want to switch gears because, my dear listeners, life goes on. Life goes on no matter who is screaming, no matter who is being murdered while you're having lobster and steak. You get my drift here? I'm going to read something that's in a much different vein that has to do with the truth that sets you free. That kind of truth. And it's not geometry, but those of you who know me know that, of course, it has everything to do with science. Night Sky with Moon. Vigil. Authors, languages, capitals, lands and rivers, shores. Hajj. Night Sky with Moon. Vigil. Mockingbird by night, dove by day. Recitation. Compliments, courtesies, forbearance, forgiveness, alms. Trees, their grace, bark, leaves, their order. The 5 prayer times. Gratitude, humility, peace, cleanliness, simplicity. Shabbat. La Luna, her grace, sign of Allah, her calming face. Cycles above, daily, beginning at dawn, another miracle, another awakening. It commences with light, strong, clean light, brilliant, enlivening, all things awake. Setting out singing, longing, hoping. Entering familiar routine, toilet, water, brushing, clothing. Then the food, the tea, the rounds from bedroom to bathroom to closet to kitchen. Outside the windows an increasing cadence to full symphony. You participating, anticipating, planning, searching for the accoutrements, the shoes, the watch, the wallet, keys, notes, paraphernalia. Outside now, fed, ready, setting forth into the world once more. A day transpires. people, places, meals, work, motion, rest. Then the evening, the time of holiness. Was it not holiness throughout? Sanctity covers the world. Earth has performed her cycle, which is endless, continuous, at all phases at once, the world over. The moon appears again, as she was 28 days ago, a bit more. There she is, glowing brighter as the solar orb descends in glory. The body is a day older, part of the great cycle of life. Each of the 28 days she is in a different position, in an altered phase. She cycles backward through her houses, as her phases cycle forward. New moon to full, crescent in the west at dusk. 2 weeks later, reverse crescent in the sacred pre-dawn hiatus. These are the two holiest times, the 2 days of lunar dawn, 3 days of lunar dusk. These are the two poles of lunar equinox, conjugated bi-weekly with lunar solstice. For a whole week, she hides inside the solar flare. For the opposite week, she veils her face in night. During the other 2 weeks, she changes rapidly through her gibbous quarters, altering her visage as she shifts from room to room. This is the moon, the friend and lover, the guide of peace and guardian of sanctity. She won't fail. Her wisdom surpasses all that of the masters. She is the gift of Allah, sure sign of the everlasting covenant, the transplendent promise, sealed with a supreme glyph of calligraphy, blessed with a supreme sonnet, the transmission of supernatural love. She is consort extraordinaire, courtesan of infinite delight, lamp in the night, hovering over the sea or mountain, gliding through cloud, above the seasons, above the year, beyond all time and keeper of time, sign of God, equal to the book itself, the immortal tablet, testimony of testimonies, highest of all prophets, most eloquent, most certain, able to convict and save. Yet she is but a sphere of rock, covered with craters and dashed with a few basaltic seas. Her dusty, her albedo blushes the saints. Her terminator is more accurate than a hyperfine clock. Her profile teaches the deepest secrets of sacred geometry. She moves, yet is fixed in her cycle. It repeats 12 times a lunar year, 13 times a solar year. Men cannot understand. She shames all mathematicians, yet her art surpasses all the cathedrals and paintings of men. She is most holy, first of all teachers, mistress of all masters, higher than any imam, pope, priest, or prophet. She never fails. All fail her, save those elect, to whom is transmitted the Holy See. Such is this fantastic setting, this spinning globe, locked to a solar revolution. She heeds none of it, not the spinning globe beneath, nor the blasting orb above her. She holds a shadow, and casts one. Men fear the rare shadow on her face, and worship her very rare shadow. They do poorly who worship her, for she is but a sign, a light set high into the night, directing the human soul to true worship. Worship him who made the Pleiades and Orion. Take not the sun's glory, nor the moon's praise, for they praise and glorify their Creator, the master of art and perfection, the sustainer of fragile continuity, giver of life and breath, provider of all food and comfort, inventor of water and oxygen, blood and iron, birth and rebirth. Alam, alamim, amin. Love is most powerful. Love can do anything. Respond. Aman. Amin. Amen. Thank you. This is Anagalactic bringing you the secrets of the universe. We're coming up on 45 minutes. I hope you have a very pleasant Sabbath day. The old Jewish Sabbath. I know everything there is to know about the Sabbath. There are actually 7, and none of them is a day of the week. That's the 4th commandment. Unless you believe the Catholic version of the 10 Commandments, where they leave out one and add another. Go figure, but it does look like we're heading for Armageddon, at which time Israel is going to be nuked. Keep looking up. We'll be right back. Thank you very much.